Thank you, Franz, for your kind introduction. First of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee for inviting me to this wonderful meeting. And I should say, it is a bit tough for me to talk on nutrition in front of the giant people in nutrition, but I will try to do my job to talk on nutrients, foods, and colorectal cancer prevention. The scope of my talk would be a burden of colorectal cancer, a pathophysiology of colorectal cancer, and a molecular pathway of colorectal cancer in Indonesian population, and the role of nutrients and food in CRC prevention. I would start with CRC, should be the third most commonly diagnosed cancer and fourth leading cause of cancer death. Although screening reduces the incidence on mortality from colorectal cancer, the routine use of screening has been stymied, particularly in resources-limited settings. And preventative measures, including dietary and lifestyle modifications, are therefore an attractive strategy to reduce the global burden of CRC. Previously, Dole and Pito guesstimated that 35% of cancer-related deaths and 90% of stomach and large bowel cancer-related deaths could be attributed to dietary factors. And these are the worst burden of colorectal cancer, the third most common in male, and the second most common cancer in female. If we look at the prevalence of colorectal cancer in Indonesia, what we can say, the incidence of colorectal cancer could be 17.2 per 100,000 population in the year 2008. If we look at our data from Cipto Mangunkusumo Hospital, colorectal cancer should be the most prevalent GI cancer. It's around 34%, followed by gastric cancer, 15%. And it seems to be an increased prevalence of patients aged less than 30 years from 4.4 to 9% in the last decade. These are the CRC pathogenesis. There are several pathways, including sporadic pathway and hereditary or familial adenomatous pathway. And another pathway is what we call CAC, colitis-associated cancer. And these are a phenotype of colorectal cancer, starting from a normal mucosa develop until cancer, and it could take several decades before the cancer developed. So it means we have quite enough time to prevent this cancer. If you look at the molecular profile of colorectal cancer in our situation, we should say that there are distinct pathways of colorectal tumorigenesis in Indonesian population. And most of the cases diagnosed between 45 to 50 years old, much younger compared to the report from Western countries, and hypothetically developed in mix of microsatellite instability and inflammatory pathway rather than sporadic pathway. And almost 15% of COX-2 expression in Indonesian patients compared to 80% in worldwide. If we look at the nucleus factor kappa B, could be expressed almost similar in other study. In terms of KRAS gene mutation, we found only 17% in Indonesia, while in the other study showed almost 40%. Even though there are some difference in might be genetic, but in terms of environment, we can see that there are challenges in nutrition-related cancer. if we want to see the relationship between nutrition and cancer, and then we can find that various epidemiological studies about the nutritional approach for colorectal cancer risk has been established. However, the study of nutrition-related cancer would need a lot of time. Prospective cohort up to 30 years may be necessary. Therefore, the feasibility of this study may be unbearable. Difficult to obtain the direct effect of nutrition-related cancer prevention. And also, some genetic biodiversity may be an important factor for developing carcinogenesis. If we look at the nutrition, the role of nutrition influencing cancer development by influencing some intracellular process such as proliferation, hormone regulation, differentiation, inflammation and immunity, apoptosis, cell cycle, carcinogen metabolism, and DNA repair. These are several nutritions has been studied quite a long time ago, and some are have revealed as an independent factors influencing cancer development. But those are also some nutrition that are in controversial state. Let's find out some previous data on food and nutrient in relation to cancer development. Those nutrition could relate it to the increased risk of colorectal cancer, red meat, alcohol, and emulsifier. Alcohol, we know that a chronic alcohol consumption is a major health issue worldwide and lead to addiction and damage of almost every organ of the body. Alcohol accounts for approximately 1.8 million deaths per year, and cancer is one of the most significant diseases caused by chronic alcohol consumption. Ethanol can accelerate tumor spread, as exemplified by for liver metastasis of colorectal cancers. It could be probably due to immunosuppression, induction of angiogenesis by expression of vascular endothelial growth factors. This is an association between ethanol and the development of cancer. This is one way alcohol causes cancer. If large amount of alcohol is drunk, and then the body cannot process it fast enough, so there is a bulk up of acetaldehyde, and this is toxic and causes DNA damage and resulting in cancer development. These are some systematic review with meta-analysis about the alcohol consumption and the risk of colorectal adenoma. This systematic review consists of 23 case control studies and 2 cohort studies involving quite a lot of subjects, and the estimated relative risk of colorectal adenoma revealed 1.16 if the alcohol consumption 50 grams per day, and this relative risk increase if the alcohol consumption become 100 grams per day. And this is a box plot for alcohol consumption, and clearly showed that alcohol consumption related to cancer development. And this is a dose-response relationship between alcohol and cancer development, and I think it's clearly showed that there are alcohol should be very related to cancer development, and our conclusion is alcohol should be avoided to prevent colorectal cancer. And then the second is red meat. Cooking meat at high temperature, frying, grilling, may lead to the formation of mutagenic and carcinogenic heterocyclic. Heme iron in red meat positively associated in development of colonic polyps, adenomas, and colorectal cancer. There are meta-analyses from year 2002 by NORAD that show that 33% increased risk of colorectal cancer in people consuming higher levels of red and processed meat. There are also some other study to show the evidence of the role of red meat in inducing colorectal cancer development. But this study have a severe heterogeneity. This one also another study to show the correlation between consumption of red meat and colon cancer development. And I think this dose dependent of red and processed meat and colorectal cancer has been clearly showed that there are a good correlation between consumption of red meat and colorectal cancer development. What about the emulsifier? Emulsifier found in a food product such as a margarine, mayonnaise, creamy sauces, candy, many packaged processed food, and confections and a range of bakery products. A regular consumption of dietary emulsifiers exacerbated tumor development. And in one study, an in vivo study in mice showed that enhanced tumor developments were associated with an altered microbiota metagenome and characterized by the elevated levels of lipopolysaccharide and flagellin. Well, and Dusrat is some food that could decrease risk of colorectal cancer, including milk and some cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cabbage, radish, bok choy, my favorite, and we can see that cruciferous vegetables contain a variety of bioactive components such as folic acid, vitamin C, sulfur, tocopherols, and carotenoids. And most attributable anti-cancer constituent should be glucosinolates, GLS, and indole-carbinol. Glutathione, GST, also a favorable metabolic profile for the elimination of certain chemical carcinogens. This is study about cruciferous vegetables intakes and risk of colorectal cancer, a meta-analysis of observational study. And I think we can see clearly that cruciferous vegetables can prevent cancer development. What about calcium? Calcium is an essential nutrient for bone and dental health and tumor-promoting free fatty acid and bile acid. Additional mechanism through inhibition of cell proliferation, promotion of cell differentiation, and apoptosis. And also calcium can do a suppression of oxidative DNA damage and modulation of CRC-related cell signaling pathway. These are a prospective cohort study with nearly 2 years of follow-up, approximately 70% low risk of CRC, comparing the highest to the lowest quartiles of calcium intake. In one RCT, it showed that a 17% reduction of CRC incidence with calcium supplementation was observed. And calcium intake above 1 gram per day should be encouraged. This another study to assess the calcium intake every 4 years and followed by almost 90,000 women. And the study with colorectal cancer cases, 3,000 cases, and comparing the total calcium intake of more than 1,400 versus less than 600 milligram per day for intakes 16 years before diagnosis, and we can see that pool relative ratio of CRC is 0.76. So it showed a protective effect of high calcium intake. Calcium intake approximately 10 years before diagnosis appear to be associated with a low risk of colorectal cancer. And I think another nutrient related to cancer development is vitamin D. It's anti-cancer activity by binding to and activating the nuclear VDR. Directly or indirectly regulate the human genome, and it has a role in anti-cancer activities through anti-proliferation, induction of differentiation and apoptosis, anti-inflammation, and also inhibition of infection and metastasis and suppression of angiogenesis. This is a complicated association between vitamin D, calcium, and the development of colorectal cancer. Its role is on proliferation, apoptosis, differentiation, inflammation, and infection and metastasis, also in the process of angiogenesis. High mortality rate of CRC in population with low solar UVB radiation exposure, and there are one systematic review study suggested that serum vitamin D may require at least 75 nanomole, and optimal level between 90 to 100 nanomole for multiple health outcome including colorectal carcinoma. This is another study, a total of 5 studies, and the pool odds ratio for the highest quintile versus the lowest was 0.49, so it showed a protective effect of vitamin D, and 50% lower risk of colorectal cancer was associated with a serum vitamin D 33 compared to 12 nanogram per ml. This is another RCT that revealed that calcium and vitamin D modify APC, B-catenin, and A-cadherin expressions in humans in direction hypothesized to reduce risk of colorectal neoplasm. This is another study to see the association between calcium and vitamin D in several polymorphism that it clearly showed that it's very nice interaction between the changing in genetic and environment, in this case calcium and vitamin D. Another issue is PUFA, polyunsaturated fatty acid. There are 3 prospective cohort studies and 8 case control studies that show a higher biospecimen long chain in 3 PUFA was significantly associated with lower risk of colorectal cancer in a prospective cohort. This is a blog spot to show the protective effect of PUFA. And I think I would like to show one of our small study for future direction. We do a small study using a source soup leaves extract, Annona muricata, that show that it has anti-cancer properties for colorectal cancer according to in vitro study. This is our previous study to show that lower colo cell line viability after 48 hours of using adenoma muricata compared to leucovorin, a standard chemotherapy for colorectal cancer. And adenoma muricata has a higher caspase-3 value compared to leucovorin and placebo. And I think caspase-3 is a good marker for pro-apoptosis. Another study using HD29 cell line, we find that a similar findings of cyclooxygenase 2 value compared to 5-fluorouracil and leucovorin. So there are no difference between three arms. In conclusion, I can say that colorectal cancer was an important problem worldwide, including Indonesia, and several nutrients or food played an important role in either promote or prevent the colorectal carcinogenesis. A prospective study and controlled trials of nutrients for colorectal cancer prevention should have been conducted in the near future. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum.